On today's episode, we are going to take a look at AMD. They just reported earnings and the numbers were great. A lot of great news coming out of the company. So on today's episode, we're going to just do a quick recap and I'm just going to share my overall thoughts. If this is your first time here, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up and make sure to stay tuned here on YouTube where I live stream taking a look at stocks you want me to look at. So let's get started. But before we begin, let's take a listen to today's sponsor. I want to thank the Motley for sponsoring this video. The Motley is a company that provides investing insight and stock recommendations for investors of all skill sets and risk levels. You guys know I love finding new investing tools and resources to help me scout out new growth stocks. And right now I have a discount for one of my favorite services the Fool offers. Through the Motley Stock Advisor services, you get access to a ton of expert stock picks. Every month you'll get 2 new picks that are aimed at growing your wealth and to help you realize your financial goals. Stock Advisor's average stock picks have done amazing returns. If growing your money is something you'd like to do more of this year, you can visit fool.com/Jose Najarro or click on the link below for access to my special offer and decide if the Stock Advisor is right for you. Thanks again to the Motley Fool, and now onto today's video. Today we are going to take a look at AMD. They just reported earnings. The stock is up almost 4% after hours. And if we take a look at its 52-week high, the stock is still down roughly 9%. But before we jump straight into the earnings, I want to mention something that the CEO of AMD mentioned during the earnings call. The first thing is that they're still on track to close the Xilinx acquisition, and that will be by the end of the year. For those that don't know, that is a major player in the FPGA market. AMD is really trying to hit that market. Many analysts are expecting that the FPGA market is one that's going to be a driving force within the next few years. The second thing that Lisa Su mentioned was that they had an astounding year-over-year revenue growth, and we're going to see that across all their business. Their data center revenue more than doubled. That is super impressive and super great to hear, because last week we heard from Intel. Intel was saying that the market right now was kind of slowing in the data center realm, and AMD was like, nah, we're not. We're actually moving. Everything's still moving fine. Maybe it's just you, fam, right? And then if we take a look at Intel is down about 0.6% after this earnings. I kind of mentioned this in a previous video where I talked about some of the 3 giants, AMD, Intel, and NVDA. And I kind of mentioned this setup. If AMD was going to announce that they did great on data centers, Intel was going to take some form of a hit. They took a nice amount of hit during the market hours as well. All right, so now let's jump straight into AMD's presentation. First, we can see their product line right now. A lot of these products did come out this quarter. For example, the 5000 series of their Ryzen desktop, the same series for the mobile, which is for like desktop, for laptops and notebooks. They also released their 3rd generation AMD EPYC, which was the data center CPU. So if we take a look at their Q1 revenue, this was a record revenue for them at $3.45 billion. This was up, let me say this, 93% compared to the same time last year and 6% compared to a quarter ago. And that might be pretty exciting. You might be like, Jose, you're super excited. I bet AMD is a tier 1 stock for you. Let me just say no, AMD is not a tier 1 stock. I'm a little more bullish on NVIDIA right now. Please don't send the hate right now. But I did mention in that previous video that AMD was undervalued compared to everybody else. And it seems analysts also agree and investors also agree today. One thing I do want to mention, right? It's great to see that 93% year-over-year growth, but that 6% quarter-over-quarter growth is something that I find amazing, right? I've been in this investing game for a while, and the semiconductor industry is one that's very cyclical. Q4 tends to normally be higher than Q1. So Q4 tends to be like the peak for semiconductor companies. Q1 is kind of like the refresh. For them to be 6% up quarter to quarter when they had a very strong Q4, and I think they even showed us some numbers here. Look at this. Q4, they had strong revenue, and we can take a look here. Q4 of 2019, revenue was a lot higher than Q1. That's how normally it works. So to me, I was surprised that they were not only that they were up 93% compared to the same time last year, but that they were also up quarter to quarter. Gross margins are still flat, about 46%. We're going to see through charts. I think this is it in form of gross margin expansions. I don't think we're going to see much more growth in this segment for AMD. Maybe a few more percentage points, but I do think we're getting kind of flattened out to those levels. They are super profitable. Operating income was $662 million. Operating margins were 19%. Net income was $555 million. Now, this company had an operating cash flow of almost $900 million. Cash and cash equivalents of about $3.1 billion. I believe this is the most amount of cash that this company has had. This is insane. This is a true growth stock story, right? AMD a few years ago was not profitable, was heavy in debt. And I want to say AMD was the first company that truly introduced me to the growth investing style. Now let's take a breakdown of that revenue, right? We saw 3.45 billion. Out of that 3.45 billion, 2.1 came out from computing and graphics. This is their desktop and mobile CPUs and GPU markets. This was up 46% compared to the same time last year, and it was up 7% compared to a quarter ago. One thing I did like, they mentioned this is the 6th straight quarter of record mobile processor revenue. What does this mean? Mobile processors, these are the CPUs that go into the laptops, into the notebooks. So by them seeing 6 straight quarters, it's to me telling me that a lot more laptop companies, a lot more notebook companies are coming to AMD and hey, we have more products for you to put your processor in. So it's kind of showing this overall market share gain for the company. Average selling price for their products were actually higher compared to a year ago and a quarter ago. And I do believe a huge reason for this is because there is just a huge demand right now, for example, of graphics card, also a huge demand of notebooks, right? So CPUs are also in huge demand. So there's no reason for AMD to kind of like lower down the prices. Next, let's take a look at their second revenue segment, and this is the enterprise, embedded, and semi-custom. In this segment, you have 2 major product lines. The first product line is the chips that go on the gaming systems. The second product line is the data center CPUs. Revenue for this segment was $1.35 billion. This was up 286% compared to the same time last year, and it was up 5% to a quarter ago. They did mention that a huge reason for this growth over the quarter was because they had higher EPYC processor sales. Their EPYC processors are that data center CPU. Next, operating income here was $277 million compared to a year ago where this was $26 million, a loss of $26 million. So I just want to show you guys a quick look at their balance sheet, right? They have about $3.1 billion in cash and short-term investments, and they have about $300 million in debt. Now, if we take a look at financial outlook for AMD, for the quarter 2, they expect about $3.6 billion in revenue. That is a growth from just this quarter. So they're going to see both year-to-year growth and quarter-to-quarter growth, which is super amazing. And for the full year of 2021, they expect 50% revenue growth. This is a great quarter for AMD. I am surprised as the stock price is only up 4%. I do believe we might start seeing some updates and upgrades on this company, and if things turn good for the market, I can see this breaking new highs in the next year. Talking about analysts, I just want to take a look at how many are following AMD. There's 12 following AMD, 9 give it a buy, 2 give it a hold, and 1 gives it a sell. This is before any upgrades, right? Right now, the average price is $103, and that's about a 20% increase from where the stock price is up right now. Like I mentioned, I do believe we're gonna see some upgrades in the next few days. So now my thoughts on AMD. AMD, like I mentioned, is not a tier 1 stock for me, but that doesn't mean it's not a big percentage of my portfolio. AMD throughout the years has been a tier 1 stock. So it's built up. I think it's like my number 5 position size. It's somewhere around 7-8% of my portfolio at the moment. And have no intentions of selling. At the moment, I also have no intentions of buying though. If I didn't have a position in AMD, how I would play it is I would just buy little and little. And if I saw a nice drop, that's when I would really load up the truck. Right now, I would just dollar cost average. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Like always, make sure to hit the thumbs up. Take care, have a good night, and see you next time.